Money is changing, it's evolving, it's innovating, it's getting faster, safer, more open.
It's so seamless to do a transaction using a stablecoin that it's even embarrassing to our system.
And so, without further ado, it is my pleasure to be able to introduce our chairman and CEO, Jeremy Allaire, and Roberto Sallouti, the CEO of BTG Pactual.
Thank you. All right. How are you?
Very good. I'm very happy. He finally has settled the discussion once and for all.
He has, and he's got the authority to do it.
And Teco, we might be the third largest fan base, not fourth, because all the new kids are Palmeirenses now, as you can expect. So we're now the third, but clearly for the target market of Circle, we're definitely probably the first.
I know our partnership's been referenced today. I talked about it this morning. It's a critical strategic partnership for Circle. But with this conversation, we'll talk a little bit about that. But I thought maybe to start, it'd be really interesting to hear you just share your philosophy about innovation. And as has been noted, you've been pushing in this area for longer than most. You've been taking risks and building technology longer than most. What galvanized that? And you're, as the leader, one of the in a renowned partnership. How walk us through how you come to that, how you came to that, and making those decisions to get into this technical innovation field.
Thanks, Jeremy. So first of all, it's a huge pleasure to be here with you. It's a huge pleasure to be partnering with Circle. We're very optimistic. And the truth is, this is, just last year was our 40th anniversary. And I can say very clearly that for the first 30 years of our lives, we were very analogic. Technology for us was important, but it was a support function. But then we saw how the world was evolving. And at one point in our life, we always regretted not having 5,000 branches and not having retail distribution. But then we had the whole digital revolution and smartphones becoming common. And the Brazilian central bank regulated the digital opening of accounts. And then we said, well, thank God we don't have 5,000 branches. This might be just the breakthrough, the opportunity that we're looking for to close a gap that we've always had. But then at that point, this was between 2014 and 16, we used to hire 100, 150 people a year, and we go to engineering, business, economic schools, throw 150 people in the back office, see who survived, and that was it. That was not going to work going forward. So we had to completely change our frame of mind, the talent we recruited, how we put all the people who understood technology at the center of decision. And this is what has been completely transformational for our institution. In 10 years, we went from having 0.5% of our deposits being retail-based to close to 34% of them being retail-based. This is bigger than some of the banks that have this huge network of branches. The development of capital markets and how you're able to distribute to high-income retails across the board and the depth of capital markets has been transformational for Brazil and for our business. So we went along these lines and we started understanding digitalization, how it worked. And for us, this was all new, right? I'm an economist. I used to be a fixed income trader. I knew nothing about technology, digital assets, and one day they came to explain to me Bitcoin. And this was in 2014 in the World Cup, right? There were some smart guys from Silicon Valley here. And one of my friends said, you have to meet this guy. And he tried to, Bitcoin had collapsed 50% from 1,000 to 500. And the guy tried to convince me.
Wences?
Yes. And he tried to convince me that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I took my economists with me, and of course we did nothing, right? But that that convinced me that there's something interesting here. And we started traveling a lot, and I got to meet fortunately I got on the board of Mercado Livre, who Marcos is actually, we went to school together, so he used to be my hallmate. We were very good friends from college. And he invited me to the board of Mercado Livre. And I said, Marcos, I know nothing of technology. He says, don't worry, we don't want you for that. We want you because you know about Brazil. I said, well, then deal, because maybe I'll learn something about this. And I met very interesting people there, very interesting people. And when I talked to these people, I said, wow, I really need to broaden my mind, right? And I remember having one conversation with one of this person that I really, really admire. And he said, listen, either you wake up or someday you're going to be here and all the IPOs and all the DCM transactions you do, they're going to be done via token offerings and you're going to have no idea what's happening. And I said, oh my God, this is true. So then Portillo had been bothering me for some time that he wanted to set up the digital assets area. I called him up and I said, okay, Portillo, you have your R&D budget. Go for it. Figure it out, understand it, let's be a player, let's make sure we understand, because I'm not sure how much Bitcoin is worth, but I'm convinced that there's a huge chance that the railways of the future of the financial system will be blockchain, this technology, and the consequences. And it's very fortunate for us because today we have a research and development area, which not only puts us at the forefront of what's going on, but it's also very profitable and gives great products to our clients.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm interested, maybe building off of that question, as you've built a client base in digital assets, and I think many maybe in the room here as well, and you've thought about this convergence of, you just talked about it, right? Eventually, right, this will be the rails, but this convergence of, fiat, digital dollars, stable coins, blockchains. Talk about, from your perspective, why is that so important? And we'll get to the partnership in a moment, but why is that so important? What role do you see that playing, here in Brazil?
Just as they were saying in the previous panel, it's so seamless to do a transaction using a stable coin that it's even embarrassing to our system. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, and when every time that you fly into Rio, when you fly into the local airport, you fly by something called the fiscal island, Ilha Fiscal. And you think that there was this little island that all the trade, all the commerce that happened in the 1800s in Brazil had to go through that little house. It's impossible today. It's more or less the same thing that I see with this technology. There are many more people that are much smarter than me, much more knowledgeable than me. Fortunately, my job now is just to show the direction. And I clearly think the wind is blowing this way. My job is to get the people that understand the currency, understand the fundamentals, and make sure we're on top of that. And this is where, if you ask me exactly how is it going to be, I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a fixed income trader. When I was happy, that's what I did when I was a happy guy, that's what I did with my life. But for me, this is where the wind is blowing, and this is where we need to concentrate to make sure that we don't lose the next trend that there's a huge possibility, and I'm quite convinced will happen in the financial infrastructure, in the financial industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of the Circle and BTG partnership, right? We kind of choose each other for these things, and clearly, the capability of your firm, the commitment to this space, the very strong, focus on doing things the right way. All these are critical things. But what, as you as an executive leadership team thought about who to work with, how to build a partnership, what was it about Circle that got you guys to come and do this?
So we're regulated not only in Brazil, but we're regulated across Latin America, in Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Mexico. We have 2, now going to 4 regulators in the US. We have 3 different regulators in Europe, 4 if you include London. So we are heavily regulated. So when choosing a partner, we could not choose the wrong partner. And why did we choose Circle to take this step, and why are we comfortable announcing this publicly, globally? 1, Circle is extremely focused on doing the right thing. You're regulated, you're transparent, you're audited, you have a robust balance sheet. The stable currency is really stable. So we're comfortable that our clients will be owning these because we will giving them access, and that's not going to be an issue. Second thing, you guys have very robust and continue investing a lot of resources in technology. So we think we're going to have state-of-the-art technology to offer our clients. And third, and which I think is the most important and was what they were talking here previously, the market is innovating in front of regulation. And this is true about AI, this is true about social media, and this is true about stable currencies. And the fact that Circle is willing to work in a transparent and in a partnership with the global regulators makes us very comfortable, because that's exactly the same posture we want to have. So I think when you put these 3 things, all the state-of-the-art technology, robustness in your regulation, audit, balance sheet, and the fact that you want to continue advancing this way, and you don't want to be the rebel in the system, and this is what makes us very comfortable in announcing the partnership. And I'll throw it back to you. Why would you be so comfortable in doing it with BTG?
It's a great question. So, I mean, look, when we look at the global expansion of the company as a whole, and we're the demand for digital dollars, the demand for stablecoins, the demand for this infrastructure is highly global, and so we are trying to find in strategic markets all around the world the critical banking partners, the critical distribution partners that are going to help bring this to mainstream scale. So we're doing that in different places. And when we looked at, last year, when we looked at what are the biggest market opportunities, where is the demand for this already high and likely to be very significant in the future, Brazil was at the top of the list. And so we, I think, clearly wanted to find strategic partners who had a strong infrastructure, institutional infrastructure, which is really key. We're an institutional-focused company, like we're a wholesale platform company, and so finding companies that were very, very focused on that institutional footprint was key. And your position in that market as an investment bank, as a asset management firm as well, and everything that you do with major corporate entities here, it was very clearly that strong focus on institutional and infrastructure. So that's critical. The second is, you're innovating. You're at the forefront of building digital asset infrastructure, building digital asset related products, collaborating with the central bank and thinking about the future of this technology. And so that's really important. And I think, this is an industry where everything is not defined. Just like you said, AI, it's not defined. crypto, blockchain, others. It's not defined, but you're leaning in and you're willing to, really work on figuring it out. And we need partners like that. We need partners that are constantly learning and trying to figure it out and are leaning in with regulators, not afraid, right? So I think that's huge in your commitment to that space. And then I think also, when you think about partnerships, you get to know people. You get to know leaders. You get to know the people who are doing the work on the ground, who are making things possible. And I think the more time that we spent with the BTG team, from leadership, yourself, and others in your partnership down, it was very clear that this is a firm that has a lot of shared values, that has a lot of shared ethics and responsibility. And that's really important from my perspective. So we look for that in partners, and I think we found all of those things with BTG. So we're thrilled. With what we've been able to put together.
And I'm quite excited because I think it will be quite seamless for both our corporate, our institutional, and our wealth management and high income clients, because it goes quite well with our banking as a service offering, with our custody offering, with our fund services offering. It fits very well, right? It's our cash management. So I'm also very happy that I think it will be a very seamless integration of putting USDC in our product platform to our different distribution channels.
Let's do it. No, it's so I think natural foundation for a good partnership. I thought it might be interesting to maybe zoom out a little bit, and as I was sharing, like, we see this huge market here, this innovative market that's already advancing in different ways. But we've had, over the past 20 years, this rise of Brazil, and I think, I think it's very easy when you're looking inward to look at your problems. But I think I'm from the outside. I'm looking from the outside, and I see incredible growth and innovation, opportunity, and the like. I'm interested in, given your role as a leader in the financial system here in Brazil, I'm interested to hear you talk about the possibilities here for Brazil, away from the technology or innovation in the financial system, but more broadly, your macro view and what you see over the next decade for this country and its role in the global economy.
Yeah, I think you have the benefit of not having to read the Brazilian newspaper every day, because the amount of noise there.
We have a lot of noise back home too.
The noise is huge. So it's always important when you're going to take an entrepreneurial approach or a business approach, you have to take a step back and look at the facts. So let's look at Brazil in the last 30 years. When I started working, it was the first day of the Real Plan. We were trying to combat hyperinflation. We had a current account deficit problem. I remember that we used to make the calculations in the trading desk of how many weeks we had until we either defaulted or devalued. We had a fiscal challenge, and we had a huge productivity challenge. Of these four problems, two we've addressed, and two we have not addressed. So inflation, we can debate because the expectations are not anchored, because we're at 3.9 and not at 3. I'm so glad we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
The first day I sat on the trading desk, inflation was 80% a month. So the fact that we're having this discussion and that there's a huge fuss about it, it's very, very positive. On the current account issue, we still have to deal day to day. All of you have to deal with all this FX regulation that's outdated from the time that we had financial repression, just as Argentina has today. Right? Last year, we had $100 billion trade surplus. This is unthinkable of 30 years ago. We don't have a current account deficit problem. We have FDI, we have portfolio investments going both ways. Actually, right now, our investment platforms are so sophisticated that if Brazil starts doing the wrong thing, the market thermometer will accuse it and people will start investing offshore. And there's nothing better to keep our government disciplined than the market thermometer. So that is working. And the fact that we're integrated globally, and here Circle, we're talking about improving the FX flows, we're integrated globally. On the fiscal side, we still don't want to do our homework. We want to tax and spend. It's what we chose as a democracy. We can't complain, but that's what we have to pay attention to. I don't believe that will increase potential GDP, unfortunately. Fortunately, we have some fat to burn from the reforms we did in the previous, let's say, 6-7 years. But we do have a challenge there fiscally. And if I was sitting there, I think we should go and try to be investment grade as fast as possible. That would be the best thing for our business. I think we'll eventually have that discussion. Whoever is the next government can be the same government or a new government, because I think society is maturing to that. And I think the most important thing, and probably the most frustrating one, both as an entrepreneur, but also as a citizen, is that we have not worked on productivity. Our education levels of basic education are still embarrassing. Yes, we are more institutionalized. We have rule of law. We have good regulation. Probably compared to emerging markets, we're probably on the top side. But listen, we want to be in the top leagues. We should compare ourselves with the OECD, right? We want to have judicial security, public security, tax security on par with the most developed economies in the world. Why do we want to compare ourselves with the B series if we can play in the Champions League? There's nothing preventing us from playing the Champions League other than ourselves. So I think that as a society, we should try to push this, right? We should try to push that we want to have the highest standards, because this will bring investment, this will bring productivity. And these are the two places that we are. But having said that, where are we today? We are an agricultural powerhouse, a mineral powerhouse, an energy, both clean and fossil fuel powerhouse. We have a 200 million people internal market full of inefficiencies, and we have a socially mobile, transparent society. So I think there are a ton of opportunities. Right now, for all of us, Brazil is so complex to deal with that for us local entrepreneurs, we probably have less competition than we should. That means we probably have higher returns on our investments than we should. I see this as an opportunity, not a problem. The fact that we're here, we're going to live here, and we know how to deal with it, this is an opportunity. We could see this as a problem and keep just complaining. I see it as an opportunity on the business side, and as a citizen, I'm going to do everything I can to change that, right? Even though that will probably affect the returns on the business side. But if we want to have a better country, that's what I think we all should do. So if you look at us, we continue to invest in Brazil, not only in the bank, but we also have investments in the real economy and digital infrastructure and energy. I think there are huge opportunities there for Brazil. I think you just have to know that, fortunately or unfortunately, Brazil will be volatile. Since you know it's going to be volatile, use it in your favor, right? You know it's going to happen. So whenever things seem that they're going to go Argentina, you go long, because it will not go in Argentina. Whenever it thinks we're going to become Sweden, we're not going to become Sweden. You can probably go short. So that's the way we play it.
So I have a follow-up question, which is, we have some of these mega trends. AI is obviously probably the biggest mega trend of the moment, and we were talking beforehand a little bit about it, but it seems like, as people talk about AI, the discussion is about how the AI infrastructure is going to potentially consume multiples of the current amount of energy that's supplied into the world. And so we have that's a huge opportunity, right? How can Brazil take advantage of that? How can Brazil be part of the energy infrastructure of AI?
Yeah, we hear a lot of people talking about the potential exports of green hydrogen. I actually think there's an easier way for us to export clean energy and a technology that already exists and is already competitive. The truth is, you cannot have more data centers in West Virginia, right? Those energy plants running on coal are at their limit, and you don't want to continue burning coal to have all the data analysis that you need. Brazil, I think, is in a perfect point because, especially with AI, and when you teach the models, you don't need latency. But we have places in the country which has 16 hours of sun a day, sun 300 days a year. When there's no sun, there's wind. We have a transmission grid that connects the whole system, so you can use the hydro as the battery to compensate when you don't have purely renewable. And we could become, especially for the training of the AI models, a data center hub. So we're working on that. We're trying to help the country go this way. We think it can be quite promising. And I think this is just one of these potentials that you have to just take a step back and think outside step back and think outside the box. It's one of the many opportunities that Brazil offers.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see the whole, all of the infrastructure that is now going into building out AI and all of the minerals that are going into the chips that are being, the distribution of where chips will be built and all of the strategic political implications, the energy demands. It really is a commodity powered business, even though it's about math and people who are fundamentally doing large scale compute. Yeah, but at the core, it's yet again a commodity, energy, minerals driven infrastructure problem for the whole world.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is where I think I'm a bit frustrated as a citizen, because I don't see government policies trying to benefit from nearshoring and all these opportunities which were there. And we're renewing incentives for the automobile industry. Come on, that's outdated. This is thinking 30 years ago. These are, unfortunately, we don't have an educational level to be driving the knowledge-based economy, but I think we can play a derivative to that in the businesses that you mentioned.
Yeah. Amazing. So maybe my last question, and feel free to throw anything back at me as well, but if you had to imagine where the financial system could be in 5 or 10 years through technology innovation, through the integration of the internet into all of this, like what does that look like? How is it better? You're in the capital markets business. Are capital markets better, and why?
I'm not qualified to answer that question. I'm going to ask it to you. I'm still an analog trader.
Okay. Oh, that's too easy. Okay, I'll give you my view. So I think at a very high level, if you look at where we are in history and the history of the internet, I think we can draw a lot of lessons, comparable lessons. When the internet basically made it possible through the use of these open networks and open protocols to allow for anyone to publish software to a web browser, the amount of software published in the world exploded. When the marginal cost of storing and moving data went to zero, the amount of data that was published and exchanged in the world million-x'd from where it was. When you had open networks for communications, electronic communications that were on the internet through open software, the amount of communications in the world million-x'd. So you had these huge things that happened, and all of those had some things in common: open internet infrastructure, commoditization of the actual infrastructure and rails that it ran on, software powered, so that anyone with an idea could write a piece of software to connect to this and amplify and magnify the impacts of it. And I see the same thing happening here. And in the financial system. And we're approaching a period in the next few years where the marginal cost of storing and moving value in the whole world will go to zero. And what that will mean is that the velocity and volume of economic transactions that can happen in the world will explode. And we will look back sort of like we look back on the analog world of communications or software that you had to install from a CD or so many things. We will look back and say, my God. And so I believe, and this was talked about by Heath Tarbert on the last session, which is this increasing economic velocity will contribute to global GDP growth. I think it can.
Just the efficiencies it generates, right?
Yeah, and in a sense, right, the more economic transactions that happen, the more economic activity there is, and the more economic activity there is, the more that's creating economic value and value creation. So I think the part that, if I had to say 5 to 10 years from now, so I think the ubiquity of value exchange we'll take it for granted on a global scale that knows no boundaries. But I think the thing that is in some ways the most interesting is we've never had money be a programmable part of the internet. We've never had the ability to take economic relationships, economic contracts, whether those are in commerce or in finance or other. We've never had the ability for those to be, run in an open global way and to connect economic entities around the world through that. We've never had anything like that. And so just like when the iPhone came out, no one could have predicted the millions and millions of different apps that it unleashed and the transformation that unleashed. No one could have imagined that. And I think in 5 to 10 years, no one will have been able to imagine all of the ways in which programmable money will have radically changed the utility of money in society and the economy. And so, as one of your colleagues actually said, I have high conviction about what the future will look like. It's exactly how that is executed that we have to kind of work on together. So on that note, we've built our partnership. We're at the ground floor. We're putting our infrastructures together. We're putting the Brazilian financial system infrastructure together with stablecoins and blockchains. Let's see what we can build.
So looking forward to that. And I think actually part of the reason the central bank is launching Drex is exactly because of what you said.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
If the central bank was not going to launch Drex, we would launch BRLC, and we would dominate the smart contracts on the currency.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but thank you for your trust and your partnership.
Thank you so much, Roberto.
Thank you. Thanks.